We're live.
Do we have, hi, Richard. Yeah, I think we only have 7 committee members now, so.
So a quorum is a small number.
We need 4.
Okay.
All right, welcome back, Gwen.
Hopefully soon we get an 8th member.
Oh, hopefully, yeah.
Hello, everyone. Gwen Zakov here. I do government relations and lobbying for the Vermont Forest Products Association. This is my 2nd year working with the association. We did our introductions last year, so I don't need to do too many introductions, but essentially our membership is a really broad-based group of folks and businesses that work in the forest economy. We represent landowners, loggers, truckers, firewood processors, secondary manufacturers, biomass processors and generators, and sawmills, foresters. So a really broad array.
You know how many members you have?
Several hundred. I don't know the last count, but we're to almost 300, somewhere around there, between individuals and businesses. All right, so I'm here to talk the Wood Products Manufacturers Report that was included in Act 181. A couple weeks ago, may have been the first week you were back, you had the Land Use Review Board in to speak to this report that was issued on June 30th of last year. And they did a really kind of high level review, so I wanted to dive just a little bit deeper into it. The report, again, was in 181. It was the LURB was tasked to bring together stakeholders within the forest products industry and work within that economy to talk about Act 250 processes and potential reforms that might be advantageous to helping the industry survive moving forward, and address some of the issues that these businesses have had with Act 250 that are very specific to just that industry. So part of the ask in 181 was that, look at Act 250, but part of it, which was highlighted by the LURB a couple weeks ago in your committee, is to look more broadly at potential permit reforms or other areas of government regulation that might be helpful to sort of tweak to loosen things up, to honor what Act 250 is and the merits of why Act 250 makes sense in Vermont, but also grease the wheels a little bit to make things a little bit easier. So the association looked at the 10 recommendations. Well, we read the report, obviously. We contributed, we were a stakeholder in the process. I would like to start off with we think that the process actually went really well. I think that they did a good job. The LURB did a really good job. And it was before even the LURB was sat, this process started off with the FPR kind of got things up and running before the LURB actually sat. Remember, there was that time where there was a lag between when they were supposed to be stood up and when they actually were stood up. So Catherine Servideo from the department started things off and sort of worked together once the LURB sat to get this up and running. Did a really good job of, again, getting stakeholder feedback. And there's pretty much everything in the report and the recommendations the association thinks are valuable things that should be implemented. There's really nothing in the recommendations that we think is a bad idea. There are, I will put a small asterisk to that. There are a few things, and I'll highlight them as I'm walking through, that we think could be done slightly differently, and that it will be a larger discussion for your committee and perhaps other stakeholders. But we think are very important small fixes, we think, that didn't quite make it into the recommendations, but are important for the overall conversation of whether or not you move forward with implementation of any of these things. So the issues that the stakeholders, got together, we addressed some of the issues, we put sort of everything on the table. It became pretty clear, and I think it should be noted, is that there are some things here that are not specific to what the forest products industry is feeling. So it's funny because you have these kind of silos of businesses that have to deal with permitting and Act 250, and they don't necessarily know how other businesses and industries are dealing with it in completely different sectors. So what we realized pretty early on is that a lot of the concerns with, how long permitting takes, the siloed, practices with A&R permitting, they're pretty much experiences with a lot of folks who go through Act 250, not just the forest products industry. So I think what you're seeing in the recommendations in the report are really honed into those that are very specific to the wood products industry, which is not to say those other things aren't really important. We definitely think those things are really important, but they didn't quite make it into the report. So I just wanted to flag that those are persistent issues that aren't really addressed in the report.
Did they make it into the report in a section other than the recommendation section? Because we heard.
Yeah, I mean, it's mentioned. And even in some of the recommendations, you're sort of skirting around some of these issues and they're addressing it from a very specific, wood products angle. But if you were to open the magnification, what we're asking for would actually probably be helpful across the board for a lot of industries and how they work through the Act 250 process.
Are there, I guess just before you dive into
Sure.
it, are there changes or updates that aren't in the recommendations that were discussed that would affect not just the wood products industry, the manufacturing industry, but other constituencies?
I'd say all. I mean, again, I keep going back to the answer of I think it's all of it. We didn't really there was only 2 big meetings that were held for the stakeholders, so we honed in pretty quickly onto what we wanted to talk about. One thing that I think was also missing, not missing, but it was hard to really grapple with, and it might be due to the fact that the Land Use Review Board has their own jurisdiction, so to speak. They know what's in their sort of wheelhouse. It also could be because the issues are so big when you talk about, how do we do all permit reform at the zoning local level, at, the A&R level, even though that, the ask from the legislature was to look at all of it, it's almost too big of an ask for one report, right? So I think that's why you see the narrowing and focus really from the jump, is that they talk a little bit about, permit specialists, and I'll go into those details here, but we're eating around the edges of it, but it's definitely a much bigger conversation when you're talking about reform of the processes.
Okay, well, let's hear what you got.
Okay. So in the recommendations, there's and I won't be going through these, but I just wanted to also highlight in the recommendations, you'll see 3 or 4 of them that talk about rules, and that the Land Use Review Board should, by rule, make certain adjustments and changes. And the Land Use Review Board that was here a couple weeks ago did mention that. So I just want to remind the committee to stay focused on those other things that are by rulemaking, that aren't legislative, because those are very important priorities in the report as well that you can't lose sight of. What we're focusing on is what we think you have control over. That's outside of the rulemaking process. That's either part of the budget process or part of the statute change process, right? The amending of the laws. Okay, so I think I set that up pretty good. So first, in the start of I put page numbers here to make it easier for folks to sort of maneuver through. It's a very long report once you get the appendices in there, but it's really about 30-ish pages or so. So the first ask is directing the Land Use Review Board to develop wood products manufacturing fact sheet and supplemental guidance to help ensure that the wood product manufacturers are aware of all the benefits in place for their sector. This would include the availability of minor application processes, one-to-one primary agricultural soil mitigation ratios, special provisions for hours of operation and delivery, and other existing provisions concerning logging and forestry operations. This is where one of the asterisks comes in. There was something in that first directive in the executive summary that talked about the Stony Brook process. And so, not to get too in the weeds, but there's this process through Act 250 where an applicant can ask to have a larger parcel only be considered for a small component of that parcel. So if you're asking for development on that property or an Act 250 permit, it would only impact the meets and bounds on a larger property of where that development or where that activity is taking place. So the recommendation here was say, hey, let's just put that, we're going to let applicants know that this process is available if they want it. Our recommendation, which we think is very important, which leads us into the number 2 here, which is that it shouldn't be something that they're just suggesting. We think it's something that should be mandatory. We think that because most of these, and this is going to apply to a lot of processors and smaller mills that are co-located on parcels that are very close or on the same parcel as current use land or forested land that's an active forest management. So when you bring an Act 250, you're at risk of encompassing all of that other land to have to go through Act 250 processes if you aren't aware or if you didn't know that that's something you need to be mindful of. That's pretty unique to the forest products industry because a lot of these operations are in more rural areas as opposed to some of the other Act 250 permits that go through that are in less rural areas. And we're also talking about a very small, and the LURB, again, they said it a couple of weeks ago, is that we're talking a very small percentage of applicants that go through the Act 250 process within this industry. So it would be a very small cohort of businesses that would get that benefit, I would say, of having an automatic review through the Stony Brook process. So number 3, we also asked the LURB to provide additional training to Act 250 program staff on the specific needs and provisions for applicants. Really not much to say beyond that. You'll see here that a lot of these things are basically directing the LURB and an A&R to just improve their processes with education and training and outreach. Because what's happening now is there's not a lot of sector-specific knowledge within those that are handling these application permits. They might not be really understanding of what is involved with them and not know how to direct the applicant forward. One thing I wanted to also mention in the State House right now, I know that A&R, and it was again also mentioned 2 weeks ago, is that this permit navigator that the agency put up, I want to say over a decade ago, it's been quite a while. They got rid of something called permit specialists. And these were permit specialists that were based off a district regionally in Vermont, that if you needed any permit, it wasn't just Act 250, any permit, or you even had a question, do I need a permit? You were directed to call someone or email someone in that region, and they would say, hey, you need to go get a wetlands permit here, you need a stormwater permit there, you need a local permit. They were just directing you. That all went online. And it hasn't been a great success. So what we've learned, even before we were making these recommendations this summer, is that A&R has decided to pull that offline and to go back to a permit specialist, which actually aligns with what our recommendations are here. And I can't speak for the department, or I can't speak for the agency, but having sector specific or subject matter specific experts rather than regional experts actually might be a better process than just having someone who's just sort of a jack of all trades. Because that would serve the application process better, and it would serve the applicant better to maneuver through the process. So that might be something to talk about, is whether or not you can maybe massage the remake of that to have it be more about the subject matter rather than the region.
Representative O'Brien?
Did those specialists work for A&R?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I think it was in their budget.
Nelson?
Yeah, remember when they came before us, the LURB, Kristen? Anyway, she came up through Region 9 up in our area, and she was a permit specialist, helped people through, and then went up the ranks. And they did away with that for a while, and she really thinks that those specialists need to come back. They can help somebody get through the process. And I can appreciate what you're saying, maybe having FPNR having somebody that's well versed in it. I mean, how many applications are there gonna be a year?
Not many.
You know, so some of
You
them,
might have like amendments, applications
Yeah.
existing, but
and have someone there that's well versed in it that can help somebody, specialize in WPMs.
Just to follow up, does the Stony Brook process only apply to forest economy stuff?
So this
Or
was-
Are there other parts of the economy where you can?
so the Stony Brook process is available to all applicants. I believe so, but they have to request it. There are things in statute that are dealt with. I want to say farming and agricultural uses automatically when they go through these processes, they narrow the focus to whatever the true development is. And I think that's a really key thing we're trying to get across here is that we need to be really purposeful about what is development and what is considered development and what is not. I mean, one of the bugaboos that I know my industry or our industry has had problems with, and we're not asking for changes because we understand that's politically not viable, is that under Act 250, you have to get an Act 250 permit across the board, no questions asked, for any logging or any forestry operations above 2,500 feet. But if you look at the Act 250 process and all the criteria, like you're talking about building structures and building roads and that are permanent. Really what they're doing is they're going in, they're removing wood and then they're leaving it for 40, 50, 60 years, however long it is until another activity. So it's really, it seems odd that you would have Act 250 be the permit for that process because it doesn't really make a lot of sense. So you want to make sure, again, going back to, the Stony Brook process is if you don't want to jeopardize the whole activity of a parcel when really the impact, the development where you're actually having a mill is only on one component of it, which is pretty common for most of these mills that are small. I mean, Vermont's are pretty small. They're not huge operations. That's the most common setup you're going to see. But I think agriculture is the one, it's noted in the report, but agriculture is one that automatically just gets a carve out under statute where they don't have to jump through the hoops that forestry and logging operations have to go through. Okay. Yeah, so a permit coordinator, this is just going back to, and this is either, yes, it's not statute, but this might be a budgetary request and coordinating more with A&R to figure out what their asks are within the budget that they're presenting, whether or not this is the direction they're already heading in. But really it's about support, coordination, and seamless movement through the permitting process. And are going to the last two recommendations. And you'll see, I said executive summary 1, 2, and 3. You'll see that there's a big gap right there. A lot of those things that you're not seeing in the executive, those are the things that are ruled by rulemaking, which is why we're not addressing them. Again, very important, but they're not asked for us. So in our fifth ask, so the asks in the report were to amend Act 250 to extend exemptions to forestry and logging operations that currently exist for farming and agriculture under Act 250 at elevations under 2,500 feet, provided existing permit conditions for permitted projects limiting tree cutting to address Act 250 criteria are not invalidated, and that provide tree removal limits are available conditions for future development projects to address Act 250. So we, in the request, that word development, which is why it's italicized right there, was not included in that recommendation. But again, we want to be really thoughtful and clear about what we're getting at here. And we think that the inclusion of development is very purposeful, that if we're going through these Act 250 reviews, we want them to be about the actual development and not the forest management activities that are also happening on that property. Because if you don't include development in any project, well, what does project mean, right? You want to be very purposeful. So inclusion and adding that one word is the only change, the only massage in that ask right there. And then the last ask we had is really just a housekeeping thing where we are asking that the words wood product manufacturer, under the definition of wood product manufacturer, removing log and pulp concentration yards are removed from that definition. This was also said 2 weeks ago by the Land Use Review Board, but just to remind you that in 2022, the legislature had some legislation that revamped some definitions within Act 250 and inadvertently included log and pulp concentration yards under the definition of wood product manufacturer, where prior, for as long as it's existed, it's never been a part of Act 250. So it was an inadvertent inclusion into Act 250. So we're asking to clean that up and clean up that definition and basically reinstate what was there for decades. And again, these are all things, other than the asterisks that I highlighted, are all things that not only the stakeholders said were important that agreed upon, but you had the land use review board say, yeah, these are really important things. So at the very bottom, I did include the executive summary, so you can see for yourself sort of the high things. So the thing, again, item number 4, number 5, number 6, since we have some time, it's worthy to go through. But these are by rule. They want to, the first one is so that update Act 250 Rule 19 so that presumptions reflect current relevant A&R permits and determinations whether ancillary permits can be permitted under Act 250 permitting and whether ancillary permits may be dissolved. This is just sort of the level of vetting and review you have to go through Act 250. Cleaning that up, making it a little bit easier. Update Act 250 Rule 34 to revise thresholds for substantial and material changes to allow for changes to reduce impact without a need for a permit or a permit amendment. Allow district coordinators to issue administrative amendments for minor changes. And for informal and non-adversarial resolution of issues, develop guidance for applicants to provide related training. So they're different, but it's all part of the same, it's all part of the same thread of thinking where, we want to make sure that the administrative processes are working. It's not impacting the substance of Act 250. It's not impacting the overall goal of how it's applied, but you're just trying to grease the wheels and make things easier for applicants while still achieving the same outcomes. So that's a request, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone has.
Thank you for going through that, Gwen. Questions? So did you participate in the process, did you say?
Yeah.
You were in the
Yes.
stakeholder
Yes.
group.
Yes.
Were these 10 recommendations was everybody all in on them? Was it consensus or did
I would say consensus. If you go through the report, you'll even see, I will say that some of we submitted comments during the draft making process, and we think that most of the things were taken care of. I can't speak for other folks because I didn't really talk to them afterwards. But I think it's reflective of what was discussed, and this is a lot of asks right here. But it again doesn't really go back to the larger issues of how land use regulations at the local level impacts this stuff, how other A&R permitting processes impact these operations. But it sort of was the charge, but it also kind of wasn't the charge of the report. Because I can talk to some of my, mill owners, for example, and they'll be like, well, Act 250 wasn't terrible. I hired an attorney, or, I was savvy enough. I made it through. He's like, but don't get me started about stormwater, So, there's a lot of other pieces to it, but I think what you're seeing reflected here, I think I can't speak for everyone, but I would say that this gets to the heart of a lot of the issues, but it's not a Band-Aid. It's getting us in the right direction, but it's not going to be a panacea. It's not going to solve all the problems because there are bigger issues at play in permitting beyond Act 250 processes.
Yeah, so, and I just want to flag when you say it was kind of the charge, but it wasn't the charge.
Yeah.
In my mind, it was
Yeah.
part of the
Yeah.
charge.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
the entirety of it.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to let Representative Lipsky ask a question, but then I want to just maybe circle back to get just your perspective on how much time was spent talking about the more holistic permit reform. Anyway, go ahead, Chad.
Thank you, Chair. Gwen, there were 2 stakeholder meetings.
Yes.
In the state.
There was one in Barry, and I think another one, I want to say Montpelier, I can't remember. But yeah, there were 2 stakeholder meetings. They were like half-day meetings.
And because I didn't participate. And so this question's about, were you there live or?
I was there. I didn't go to the second meeting because I went to the first because they were kind of doing, I believe, sort of similar approaches. So it seemed a little redundant, but I went to the first one in Barry.
So could you share with the committee sort of the diversity of the
Oh, I
stakeholders.
don't have the list in front of me.
You know, you don't have to go through every.
Yeah, I mean, you had A&R folks there, you had LURB folks there, you had, there were foresters, there were loggers, you had some, the department, Forest Parks had some foresters there. I believe there were a few manufacturers there, wood product manufacturers as well. I'm having to like jog my memory for what it was, but I would say in the room, I remember it was in Berrytown, there was probably like 25, 30 people in the room. Yeah, but to answer the question about how much time was spent on other issues, so again, there were 2 meetings. It wasn't like the land use review board was sort of for issue not in their control. It took a little bit longer to get them stood up. There were timelines within Act 181, and the first timeline was this report. By June 30th, you're going to get this report out. That
It was
probably,
actually by February 15th.
oh, and then they had asked for the extension. Sorry, they asked for the extension, they got it. So I think what you're seeing might also be just a real feeling of a crunch for time as well. So yeah, maybe I'm just like, I just like think the better of everything. So I just assume that like that it's not anything nefarious, but I feel like timing definitely played into it.
Yeah, no, I'm sure you're right. And actually, now that I'm thinking back, I believe the legislation, so Act 181 required this report to come in December of
Okay.
2024, which was before the LURB even existed.
Sure.
So, you know, the folks, I think, who were expecting to be part of that new
Yeah.
board said,
Yeah.
sorry, we don't have the report because we haven't been seated.
Yeah, and this predated me coming to the association, and I'm, you know, again, I'm glad you're having LURB back in and others back in who are the brains of this process, so they can give you a little more context for the timing of that stuff. But yeah, I think I will say that I felt heard, but I felt that component of talking about the other processes in place, definitely, it was pretty much pushed off the table early on. I mean, it wasn't talking about how do we do it, it's the reason why we can't do it, if that makes sense.
Representative Nelson.
Do you think it would be beneficial to the stakeholders and to the LURB that if this process was pushed out another year to allow to have more meetings and more talk? Not entirely to
Yes.
your concerns, but the rural community's concerns as well?
That's a big question. I just think for the report, for this specific ask, I think like it's a good first step, right? And I think you don't want perfect to be the enemy of the good, right? I feel like if there's a report that has things that everyone is sort of agreeing upon, I feel like you start with these things and then you sort of dial down a little bit more. My concern with spending more time on this to get everything in is that I think you're also seeing what you're seeing what's happening sort of with the tier 3 conversations, and it gets, you know, people get very, and what's happening with the road rule and all these other things, is that these are really big issues. So like say, how do we change A&R permitting? Okay, like.
Well, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes.
It's the road rule in tier 3.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, should the whole process be pushed out? You know, if this is 90% settled and don't let, you know, perfect be the enemy of good.
Yeah.
But push it out to give them time now to work on these other issues to hope that we can get to the same place.
That's a policy decision for you folks. It's a very, the way I looked at it was a very separate conversation, what's happening with the other components of 181. And our association has very strong opinions that are probably less warm and fuzzy than how we feel about this report. So I don't know if we want to open that can of worms at this time and space, but we want to be supportive of what good work has been done so far and move that forward, and then reserve, you know, comment for other things that are a little bit more percolating.
Point well taken. You answered the question. In a lawyer type of way, but
Representative O'Brien.
When I changing the subject a little bit, but in the wake of this Taft Street decision, does the
What decision?
Taft Street, the whole municipal
Oh, the ag.
regulation.
Yeah.
Does the forest economy world worry that something similar could happen, or are there things like we can do legislatively to protect it? going
Like if-
forward?
The way forestry and silvicultural operations are protected from local regulation.
Yeah.
I haven't really thought about that, but that was sort of a late, I want to say, agriculture has enjoyed exemptions from local regulations a lot longer than forestry and silvicultural operations are. They were later ads. Don't give me the exact date, but I do remember actually when it happened. So, and I'm no expert on this, but and I'm not an expert on what's happening with the municipal ag stuff. That was in a former life, but the way that the Clean Water Act and other, things that, whether it's the Agency of Natural Resources or the Agency of Ag have to live up to in order to be like legit with the federal level plays into that. And I don't know, I would have FPR come in to speak to what that means for best management practices and all the other things that are a part of the decision to say, hey, local, you don't have any control over it within this area, because guess what? The department is, and we're having to comply with X, Y, and Z in order to meet our obligations to keep our waters clean and do all these practices. So they're a better entity to ask that question to, and I also really haven't thought about that, but I think that there's always whenever you get into litigation where, there's a decision made that challenges what the not preconceived notion, but what everyone had assumed was reality, that's always there. I just don't know what the outcome might be or what the concerns are for that being an actual reality. So,
I actually will say that I thought about it as it happened, and it was only because, and Representative Lipsky is aware of this situation, in my district, there was a logging operation that commenced in November on national forest land. And a neighbor who had been told that there was going to be some minor logging done was caught off guard by the extent of what actually was happening. And wondered whether there was a noise ordinance at the town level that might apply. And I checked with, I thought, oh, okay. I was thinking about the municipal ag ruling, and I checked with Ledge Council. They pulled up the legislation that we've been actually looking at that has, A, B, and C, or 1, 2, and 3, where A is farming and the B is forestry and C is silviculture. And Michael Grady said, nothing in the Taft Street decision would have any impact on these two. The court saw some ambiguity in the language on the farming piece with the wraps. There doesn't seem to be even a risk of their finding any ambiguity with the way that it's written, just with the language of. So for whatever that's worth, that was his response.
Yeah.
Yeah, just weighing in on your concern, just some observations. First of all, we've lost so much of our processing sector that I have to think, but there's one in Chittenden County on Vermont 15, Lamel Lumber. They are a fine, and critical sawmill to the industry. But bringing logs into them for the last 25 years, I've observed changes to the neighborhood. Large residential development directly across the street from their main entrance. And they are very professional. They have kilns, they have saw, they truck product, they make bark mulch, all sorts of, they utilize everything. But I wonder every day when I pull in and out of there, what, as the community in the neighborhood changes, they're protected pretty much on both ends, but around them. And there are other industrial land uses behind, but they're all surrounded by housing. So that concerns me. I think about Brattleboro or Alwood Lumber, which are down across the tracks by the river. There's smaller others, even Columbia Forest Products. Newport is very near North Country High School.
It's right next to a veterinary hospital
Yeah,
too.
I mean, it's,
Gee,
but many of those old communities are used to that being part of their economy, part of their, so, you know, as Gwen Zakoff allowed, you know, we never know when a litigation or a litigant might move in and negate any of that relatively compatible history. And
Yeah,
I don't know that any of this can protect. You know, we're talking about a little grower in a 6-town spurring a whole Supreme Court decision that shakes up everyone's
yeah,
confidence. So it's just,
yeah.
I think I like what you've put together, and I agree with Rep. Nelson and others. There are a whole lot of other major threats, I think, to rural Vermont that are deeply more impactful.
Yeah.
To
I'm just gonna ask you, Gwen, about, sorry, are you all set?
no, I'm
Okay. About the recommendations that don't necessarily require legislative action, but would be done by rule. So the report was prepared by the board with input
With
from,
coordination, I think with FPR, I think it specifically said in coordination with FPR and stakeholders.
okay, in coordination with, can we, I mean, should we be assuming that the recommendations that talk about updating rules, and these are Act 250 rules, that the board, the Land Use Review Board, is going to go ahead and do them because they basically are recommending to themselves that.
Right. It would appear so. I don't know how they are prioritizing the rollout of these. It seems to me, I don't remember exactly. They did highlight some things when they were here the first go around a couple weeks ago. And they mentioned some of these things that they were, working on. But I don't know how they're prioritizing them. I would assume if the Agency of Natural Resources is working on permit process adjustments, even something so simple as the permit specialist, reinstating that role, I would assume that would be boosted up to a higher priority because it's moving. It's a priority of the agency. But that's just my assumption. You'd have to speak to them. I do worry about, I mean, this is just my own personal thing. There's so much on the plate for the land use review board that I think they have a lot on their plate. It's not just this report, and it's not just these. There's so many other things that are going on. So I think prioritizing is a bigger issue than just this. It's also what else is going on.
Just to get back to what we were talking about, it'd be interesting to hear Ledge Council just explain to us why there was something in the RAPS language that made it vulnerable, whereas the AMPs, I don't know, could be have the same vulnerability, or they're just much stronger depending on.
Yeah, I think it's the language, the legislative language and statute didn't refer to the AMPs.
Mm.
So it just says forestry is exempt. I mean, I'm paraphrasing. In the agriculture case, it said the RAPs, the RAPs are exempt. Again, I'm paraphrasing, but it was then
That
like, oh, okay, well, yeah, we're going to regulate something. It's not the RAPs. It's what the town of Essex was trying to do. So I think that's maybe oversimplifying, but
yeah, no, that helps.
And it's also important to recognize what does silviculture and forestry operations mean, because there's a pretty little small sector of what we're talking about in the overall forest products industry, because we're not talking about like secondary manufacturers, we're not talking about mills, we're talking about small small operations or mobile operations or no real operations or just real silvicultural practices and forestry operations. So it's a really small sector of what is not. So like if I, I'm chair of my planning commission in my town, if I wanted to regulate an industrial area or a commercial operation, it's definitely going to impact the forest products industry. It might not touch a silvicultural operation or a forestry operation, but it's going to touch the secondary things. Like once you get the trees down, it starts to move, and that's when we have say over the process.
So the mill in your town or any town right now, that's what we're talking about here. They are currently.
They would be under the same as any other business, as long as, there's zoning in that area.
Are certain logging roads potentially gonna fall under the road rule?
There's a carve out in Act 181 to say it doesn't apply to, but this is where definitions matter. And this is making it very clear about what's in and what's out. I mean, that even goes back to this last ask. We inadvertently included log and pulp concentration yards, which are basically at the landing sites of a logging operation. They were never meant to be included, but they were. So we just need to be really careful about moving forward what the guidance looks like in the road rule to make sure truly that this doesn't impact any, new operations for forestry and for logging. So, yeah.
So, and this gets back to the conversation you were just saying, cutting logging operations are protected by Act 250, also by the municipal zoning. But mills are in a category. But then somewhere in between, we've got log yards, and they have inadvertently, maybe in 2022, got put over here, and so the recommendation is put them back over here and they're protected.
Exactly.
Other thoughts? So thank you.
Thank you.
And we are going to hear more on this topic. FPR is coming in when, I don't remember.
We got,
Tomorrow.
yeah.
Yeah.
At 10:30,
And then
Dana Doran's coming in.
Dana's gonna speak to this and a couple of other things too. I think he's just gonna give us an update. And then we've invited Sam Lincoln, who we all know, I think, logs here in Vermont, and was also part of was he a stakeholder?
I can't recall. Might have been, yeah.
I think he was involved with it, yeah. So, just an opportunity to get more input from him.
I have a capable working group. They backed it up. It's now starting at 12:30 in Williston tomorrow.
Tomorrow, okay.
Yeah, so and that's when we meet with I refer to them as the advocates, the NRC and CLF.
Yeah.
I will try to conduct myself professionally with CLF, Chairman Murphy.
And all agreed about that.
Fry them.
Any other thoughts on this? Where are we going with this? Just in case people are wondering, there's no bill. We will have if we agree that we do want to move ahead with following up on recommendations legislatively, then it'll be a committee bill. And I think Jed has already been thinking about that and has worked with Ledge Council a little bit. So that would be what we would do. And then just be a question of how what do we want to include in the bill? So don't need to decide that now, but we'll be thinking about that as we take more testimony. And who else beyond the people I just mentioned that we might want to hear from? The LURB did say that they would be able to come back in at some point. And I remember saying to them, we know that you're busy with everything else that you're being asked to do. So we'll be judicious about how much of your time we need again. But if there are things that we're not clear on, we can reach out to them and either ask them to respond in writing or to come back in just to clarify things.
As far as forest operations go, are there gonna be new guidelines then depending on what tier you're in as far as exemptions or permitting?
Uh, for, is this under Act 181?
Yeah.
Are there gonna be new
What do you mean,
guidelines?
what do you mean by that? I don't,
Well,
Think so.
say, forest operations have been exempt,
sure.
right, in the past, but with new tier systems, will there be specific rules for
Oh.
tiers?
I don't think that was contemplated in Act 181.
Okay.
I think that if you're included in tier 3, again, which is why we're watching, you would have to comply with the same, you still
They'll be
have to react to the
consistent.
project. But
Yeah.
Nowhere in Act 181 did they say that within tier 3, forestry operations would be treated differently or anything like that. It's all kind of in the same.
Okay.
I would think a lot of forestry. Wood product manufacturing areas could be in tier 3.
We're all waiting with bated breath to see where they land.
I don't think you're gonna see any new ones pop up in
Yeah.
Essex.
I think this goes back to the whole rural nature of a lot of these forestry operations because, we're talking where are the trees, they're.
Right.
So that's why we're really concerned about that because that's the potential to impact future forestry operations moving forward is large.
Think land growth. Yeah, I mean, down in your area, you still have some wood product manufacturing going on down in your
Mhm.
end of the state, and there's beautiful forest down there, and we're growing at 3-to-1 or more. And a great resource.
You're here.
You just need markets.
Yeah. Yeah, we need the ability to bring it to market. And without having a tariff going up, and tariff coming back. But as they said, Vermont, some of those real modern sawmills, Vermont can never supply enough product to it. Because we don't grow enough softwood fast enough. It takes quite a reach. Quite a reach.
All right, so that's where we're heading with this topic. We are not scheduled to have, I think, the students come in until just before noon. So we have a little time. John, you were asking earlier if we had any time set aside for committee discussion.
Yeah.
And so we have a few minutes now if there's something you wanted to bring up or.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, just two things. One, just given our calendar for this year, I was wondering if there are any bills up here or committee bills that would make sense for us to get to sooner than later, because it seems, just looking at like House floor schedules right now, that there's a great advantage to getting a bill out of committee and through the floor, and then the Senate, which we know, like Senate Ag has very little to do usually, so to get them something that they would be like, "Oh, we have nothing to do," and they're like, wait, there's something on the wall there. So I'm just saying strategically, if it makes sense for this committee to do that.
Yeah. Yes, I think that my hope is that we'll have 2 committee bills fairly early, by, if not the end of next week, the end of the following week, this one, and then the municipal regulation.
Right.
And then be done with those 2 things.
Yeah, I just wanted to toss into the pot. It's not on the wall yet because I haven't got it back from Ledge Council, but the other day when we had the folks here from Farm to School and I asked about eliminating ultra processed foods from school lunches, and the 2 nutrition directors were super excited. I would love to work on that bill as a priority. I don't know how other people feel, but I actually have a meeting with Harley Sterling on Monday when we're off next. And I'm hoping I'll have something, solid that we can talk about. I mean, I think in terms of improving nutrition and health for children, there's almost nothing more that we could do with the jurisdiction that our committee has than helping kids have more wholesome foods instead of junk foods. I mean, there's a lot of good that happens in our school lunch program, and then there's a lot of tater tots, and I think we can do better.
My other, my other thought was if there was any interest in this, and maybe, I think I may have brought this up last year, but that if there'd be interest in a revenue bill that, I've been looking into what's the potential of a tax on food, on groceries?
Mhm.
And certain states, tax them, I think 5 states tax food at full sales tax, but a bunch have a limited sales tax. So if say, we have something like $2 billion of groceries sold, and so something like, a 1% tax on that, if we dedicated it to, say, paying for universal school meals or,
Milk.
making it go right to food security policy, it would be pretty interesting because it would free up a certain amount of money from the general fund. And there would be a direct connection, like every time you buy $100 of groceries, $1 goes to universal school meals, or we're fighting food insecurity in Vermont.
Did you say you're working on?
I just been thinking about it. No, I haven't. It would be a committee bill, but we've never done a tax bill in this committee.
Well, also establishing an equitable pricing system for milk production.
Yeah,
Can we do that on a state level? That has to be federal, doesn't it?
no.
No, so Massachusetts dairy farmers right now are getting $4 a hundred
On top of,
on top of the federal order pricing. Maine's getting
They have a
two.
tiered system, yeah.
I'm not sure what they're doing in Connecticut. But something I've been talking about, and I just talked to the people from the CAC. New York has a 25% now reinvestment credit, and not a credit, but a reimbursement. So that's for anything you do. They build a new barn
This is
that costs them,
50/50 thing or whatever that's called, or something.
they get 25% anyways. They build a new barn that costs $2 million. They're getting $500,000 back. And then they go out and buy cows that are $4,000 a piece right now. They're getting $1,000 back on their cows. I can't even imagine. I know New York has Wall Street and a lot of money, but I can't imagine they have that much. But in Vermont, with the new CAFO and the water quality, and always the emphasis on water quality, and it's a valid cause. And I just talked to the people from the CAC, and I said, what would you think of a 50% reimbursement for water quality done by agriculture? And A&R had the funds from that 0.2% land transfer and stuff. But if you invest in injection equipment, dragline equipment, manure pits, treatment areas, get a 50% cost share. So right now we applied for these grants, and I'll give you an example that hit close to home. We applied for a grant for a no-till seed drill. We were awarded $22,000. We bought a $45,000 drill.
What was the grant?
It might have been Working Lands.
Okay.
Through
A Vermont one though,
Yeah, Vermont one.
not like a crap thing, yeah.
No, from the Vermont Agency of Agriculture. We got $22,000, about a $45,000 drill. It's not big enough, but it's what we could afford. It's very nice, just not big enough. A friend of mine, young farmer, nice kid, was awarded $45,000. He bought a $47,000 drill that's 10 feet wider than mine, so I have drill envy. He has drilled 200 acres. We have drilled of cover crop. We have drilled 4,000 acres of cover crop. So where's the equity? So if it's a 50% reinvestment, back to the farm, reinvestment, whatever you want to call it, it goes to scale. Because if we had 50%, I'd have got a 30-foot drill. And we'd be able to more timely, because it's time getting those cover crops in right. And the earlier you get them in, the better they set up and the more they're working for the environment. Then there's the water quality, like buffers, that's a great program. Manure pits, vegetative treatment areas and all these things that we should and could be doing. And with, DEC getting involved, that I don't know of a lot of discharge issues. But I know people are on the edge with a lot of things on the farm, and waiting for the federal farm bill to come through. So anyways, that's the thought I've had, and it's directly tied. Yeah. Hey, would I like a 25% and go buy a brand new John Deere chopper like they do in New York? I'd love it. I don't see that happening in Vermont, but can we tie it to water quality and make it 50% and just get a good return on our money? We have captured 83% of our phosphorus in the TMDL with only 25% of the money. Give us 50% of the money. How much more can we capture? I bet we can get it all.
Are most of the water quality regulations that you have to follow, do they have some sort of grant or subsidized element to them?
There are some.
Yeah. But they're not consistent.
They're not consistent, and they're not, and then they're capped, and then they're capped, and then they're capped. And if you have a $1.5 million project, and it's not unheard of to be done to make it right, and you can get $200,000 from ag, and then they recommend, well, wait until the farm bill comes so you can get the other 450,000, so you're covered. How about we get 50%? And then if the farm bill lines up with it, we get some more there, and that frees up more capital to do other things.
So is your thought that we would get more, put more money into the program, or take the existing money and distribute it differently?
Both. And we need to talk to ag, because they have some other programs out there that are working very well the way they have it. They pay so much per acre for these buffer programs.
We're talking about working lands here.
Some of it's working lands, but some of it would be tying in with ANR and DEC for water quality.
Well, the water quality fund has how much in it?
Well, there's millions that go through that every year, and
It's all spoken for, but.
and I am a little vague though on how it's spoken for.
Yeah.
And whether it's a year-to-year thing. But we can have them in fact, we should have them in, because they are also giving us an annual report that we pay more attention to.
Yeah.
When do you guys do scheduling for next week, for like the next week? What day of the week do you guys do the agenda scheduling?
We typically are finalizing it or trying to finalize it on Thursdays.
Okay,
But it's always a work in progress.
okay,
The people will contact us and say, we're going to be in the building on February 20th. Can we block out, an hour, like the group that was here this morning?
Yeah. okay.
Come on in.
Or observe the House Ag Committee?
Right.
Okay, great. I've got a class.
I was just gonna say, I'm hoping before too long tonight, we could actually maybe I could talk with you about who we might be able to bring in terms of the alternate food.
Yes, yeah, please.
Because basically, it's only gonna be like a 2 cents bill when it comes to our committee. But they are prioritizing the full form bills before the short form bills, so even I put in the request last week, it's moving a little slowly.
Yeah.
But maybe since our committee cares about it, we can start talking about it before we officially have a number or something. Is that possible?
Yeah, we could definitely, if we can figure out who would be helpful to have in to
Yeah,
give us.
and Harley might be one of them. I'm gonna see him on Monday, so I can,
That would be good.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And then to the other question about what we might want to try and do sort of sooner rather than later. There is another bill, well, there's another bill on our wall that we haven't heard from, and that's Representative Burt's. Not sure if it's a citing bill, exactly what to call it.
It's basically say, yes.
And we will have Greg introduce that bill next week and have Ledge Council walk us through that. So we'll have that. And I understand that we may be getting a bill flushing out the bill with rodenticide subject. I don't remember which, we had a short form bill. We took quite a bit of testimony last year. And so we've got somebody who's been working on that. And so that'll be something else that's actually up there. And then I'm reminded, Representative O'Brien, you had introduced a short form bill with, I think, addressing this question of putting a premium, giving farmers a premium.
That's a bill up there, yeah.
Yeah. And I will say also that I have been, we took some testimony last year on Representative Supernut's bill. It's not in our committee on minimum wage for ag workers. And that may be something that, we could think about tying to, a premium somehow. So I am happy to have, discussions about these things. Yeah. Great.
The premium on, like investment, is that just taxpayer dollars?
I'm not quite sure how it's funded. I don't know if they're collecting something off all milk sales and Vermont dairy farmers are paying their farmers.
Paying a tax?
But I'm not sure.
Can you get extra milk tax on?
I think that I think, let me just say this is very qualified, think that it's passed on ultimately to the consumer. And in the,
Like an excise tax, yeah.
yeah, so, I mean, in the world that we're living in where we can't turn around without having somebody say affordability, that, obviously would be an issue.
I absolutely understand, so I get sheepish when I even talk about these things. There has been a thought from other people that a 5 cent charge on everything in the dairy case, including nut sweat and, all the fake products that just aren't as healthy for you.
Dave, could we maybe have JFO and Ledge Council come in and talk about a food tax at some point?
Yeah.
Be interested.
Yeah.
Just because.
There was some work done actually on, there was a tax commission that worked, I think it was in 2021, and they produced a long report. And one of the recommendations was taking the sales tax and broadening it out to, and like anything.
Yeah.
And it would be lower than, instead of 6%, it would be 3%.
Right, yeah.
So that's, yeah. And politically, having a tax on some things that are not currently taxed also would be, a challenge, whether or not we were talking about affordability.
Yeah,
Right,
yes. No, food, it's hard to tax food.
but good tax policy is broad-based too, so.
Yeah.
And you could easily exempt DBT cards.
Mhm.
So I want to acknowledge we have some guests in the committee room, and then say hello to everybody. I think you're from one of the tech centers?
Yes. Yep, the Randolph Tech Center.
The Randolph Tech Center. Okay, okay. Would you be interested in participating at all? I don't know whether you came just to observe, or if anybody,
like to participate, right?
if anybody feels comfortable even like coming up to the table and just maybe.
There are two witness chairs if you don't want to come up alone. Co-present and introduce.
Sure. Yeah, if we could have them each take a turn, sit and introduce themselves and tell us their connection to agriculture.
That sounds like a great
Or,
idea.
or their working lands.
Yep.
Me first?
Yep.
Okay. Hi, I'm Annie Massey. I'm the diversified agriculture teacher at the Randolph Technical Center. And right now we're doing a policy unit. So we're learning about global ag policy and then zooming in, doing North America, zooming in a bit more statewide, localized. So yeah, we decided to come to the State House today just to observe both the House and Senate ag committees and learn about what you do and hear about some of the bills you have in action right now.
And is this a year-long course or is it just started?
Yes, year-long course. Yep. And it's diversified agriculture. So we also do forestry and all sorts of just working lands, conservation, things like that. So yeah.
We've got, I would say, who's the closest to Randolph? Maybe Representative
Yeah.
O'Brien, who represents Tunbridge.
Oh, great.
You should introduce ourselves.
Yeah, maybe we should do that first, and then if we'll ask you to say whatever you want to say, but
Sure.
so I'm the chair of the committee, that's why I'm talking more than anybody else. I'm David Durfee, I'm from Shaftesbury, which is down in Bennington County. And I'll go to our ranking member.
Yeah. Richard Nelson, up in Derby, represent town of Derby. I also serve on the North Country Union High School Board. And very supportive of our career and technical centers and our ag programs in there. And I have a niece with Emily Dayhoff in the animal science.
And you're a dairy farmer.
I'm a dairy farmer and I was also a big time FFA member.
Oh, great. Yeah, we're all in FFA.
Well, thank you and welcome all of you and thank you for being here. My name is Jed Lipsky. I'm a representative from the Lamoille 1 district, which is Stowe. I am part of the working lands community. I've been a logger for over half a century. I still am. And one thing you might observe from this committee, most people that serve on this have a deep connection with either agriculture, food, or the community at large or forestry. So and I understand someone here may know Amber Perry, who was a
Yeah, her daughter's in my class, but she went home sick this morning, unfortunately.
she's
But
frequent and
yes.
contributes a lot
Mhm.
to our committee.
Oh, great. Yeah, I wish Matty was here right now, but she headed home.
Frank Burnham from Cabot, representing Cabot Danville Beechin. I'm a farmer as well. We have apples and maples that are on our farm. My senior project at high school is about diversification, so.
Oh, cool.
John O'Brien, I represent, it's called Windsor Orange Run, which is got Royalton, and Windsor and Tunbridge in Orange County. And have a long history. As far as I went to Chelsea High School, which is no more, but a lot of my classmates went to RTCC. And like my brother-in-law grew up in Royalton, went there, and even Tom Hardy, who was a doorkeeper here last year, and taught at RTCC.
That rings a bell.
And you've got just up the hill now, Vermont State University, doing a lot of things that are connected right to your curriculum.
Yeah, they're a great resource for us.
John Bartholomew from Heartland and also represent Windsor and West Windsor. I'm a retired veterinarian and live in a community on a working farm, but can't claim to be a farmer myself.
Yeah, you also did not hear me say I am a farmer. I'm definitely. So, yeah, welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. Yeah, do you want to introduce yourself and why you're in the class? What you're interested in studying after school, maybe?
My name is Harley. I want to have a dairy farm in the future, so yeah.
Thank you. Thanks.
If anybody wants to come up, it can be a little intimidating, sit there early. I know for people who've never been here before, it might be, but yeah. So if you just want to stay where you are, that's also fine.
Chairman Durfee.
Yes.
I might allow for these witnesses that you will be able to hear yourself. It's recorded globally on YouTube. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Great.
This is the House Agriculture Committee on today's date. So you can smile and speak up and be proud of who you are. We're really excited you're here.
Thank you for having us.
I just wonder, Carly, and the rest of you, how many of you who are living on some sort of farm right now?
One student, yeah.
It's like dairy farming, we talk about this a lot. It's really hard to get into dairy farming if you don't grow up on a dairy farm.
Yeah, I grew up on one, but as of right now, I don't participate.
In Rainbow?
Yeah, could we ask you a question or two, or I know
Absolutely.
you're very busy,
It can be
so,
both, yeah.
okay, or ask us questions.
We're here to serve you.
Yes.
In that case, no. Any questions from the,
I need more names.
more names? Okay, let's go around.
I'm Ava Lucas. I'm in ag. I wasn't going to be an ag and then I decided last minute to come, but I really like it and I'm learning a lot, so. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Do we just want to start down here and introduce yourself? Maybe what you're interested in the future?
I'm Anthony. And I like being outside, that's my.
I'm Ellen Messer. I have a dairy farm and I got shut down, so I want to be able to start.
I'm Grace Dacre, and in the future, I'd like to go to college and be a vet.
Great. We need good vet techs.
Married to a vet.
Mm-hmm.
Love school, but I ended up trying.
I'm Ivan Caxavan and joined that because I had a landscaping job for a little while, like around here in Calais. So I just wanted to see where I can go.
Bob. Join any because I want business / dispensary.
So, if you've got questions, any kind of questions, or if you want, maybe we have questions for you.
Any questions that folks write down? Mhm. Okay, I can ask. We were wondering about the role of school consolidation and where you see CTE, especially like agriculture's role and how the educational landscapes can change in the future. We were asked to come up with our own bill, and that was kind of our thing, was like creating, we don't have a working farm at our center, but a lot of CTE centers do. So our proposal was getting funding to allow us to partner with a local farm or create a farm at our school, which could be a little tricky in our case. But we were also curious at the same time about what you see the future of CTE.
I just think that, I'm just going to say before Representative Nelson jumps in that not every CTE has an ag program or a forestry program. And so thank you. And I think oftentimes there isn't one because there's nobody who's available to lead it, to teach it. So great to hear that you've got one. And Randolph, thank you for doing that, Representative Nelson.
Thank you. CTEs are so vital to our state's economy and getting our young people engaged. And whether they do that and then go on to college, become a vet tech, or whether they do that and go on to the trades or go into agriculture, we need people that are engaged and willing to learn and step up and either do their own or work with people that are established. And remember, farming is more, and it took me, I'm a dairy farmer, but farming is more than just cows. You could have a sheep farm, vegetables, growing food, it's all farming. and landscaping, you know, and being a horticulturalist. It's all great. It's all working the soils and working the land. And I'm just excited to have young people in here that are thinking that way, because we have lost so many of our young people in our industry. That is agriculture, and it doesn't take a lot of investment to start growing food.
So, and the question was, you know, where do we see the?
Yeah, and I see CTEs as a vital part, and anything that I don't want to be responsible for a single school to close. I just want them to be affordable for our residents and for our tax base. But I think anything that happens, CTEs need to be a center hub of every school, because that enables, you know, not everyone's going to go to Harvard,
From Chelsea.
but some of us are going to, you know, I went to University of Vermont, but some people are going to want to go to tech, and some people are going to want to go right out into the field and start working. And without acquiring that debt, and CTEs can get them started in that direction. And I think they're great. I think they're vital to our education system.
Representative Blitzky.
And just to your question, I want to inject a little hopefulness to everyone here in the room. That you have a leg up that's very important to Vermont, because some of you all live here. You're being educated here. Some grew up on a farm, maybe it's an active farm or is diminishing. But we need you here. We need young people. You're aware of this notion that our school population is decreasing. That's complicated, not purview of this question. But the fact that you're here, you've been exposed to rural life, and the opportunities that CTEs give you. We as committee members are very grateful that you're here, and we consider you all, you know, as you mature into adulthood, which takes place somewhere between 70 and 80 years old. Maturity, that is. You're fortunate, and your gumption and willingness to, you know, follow a path that's following your heart. That makes me very happy to see a room full of folks at your stage in life.
Senator O'Brien.
I wondered, you know more probably about the Land Access and Opportunity Board. There's something called the Land Access and Opportunity Board that the state of Vermont created. But I wondered if one of their charges was how to get young people on the land, whether it's not, you know, BIPOC community, et cetera, but it is part of that bigger charge, how to get all these students on farms.
Yeah, and I don't know the details, but I think that is definitely part of what they're trying to do, is make land available, giving people who don't currently have access to land that access. One of the challenges of becoming a farmer is if you don't have land, how are you going to farm? And owning land can be pretty challenging just for the financial reasons. But even aside from that, renting land, that, you know, there may be a cost there too, but just how much land is there available to rent is a challenge. Senator Byrd.
Yeah, just curious if your program does anything to link students up directly with existing farms, operating farms, and if I mean, we have an apple orchard and we hired quite a few high school students every year to help us out. And I think it's a great way to get started, is just to make some money and work on existing this. I highly recommend it, first of all. I mean, I grew up on a farm, but I actually went to work at an apple orchard for a while because we didn't have an apple orchard. So that was a new venture. So I learned a lot from that apple grower simply by working for
So the CTEs have a vehicle called work-based learning, I believe. Yeah, I'm sure you have it down there and you can partner with people in your community. Get her into a veterinary clinic.
She has shadowed someone, right? You shadowed a vet, and then their senior year, once they've completed a year of the program, they're able to go out on a sort of apprenticeship, work-based learning, a couple of days a week to work in the field if they choose to do that.
Is anybody doing that now, or
Yes, one person.
anybody want to talk about that?
You want to talk about it? Do you want me to talk about it? So part of our program does have welding and blacksmithing, and so he is apprenticing with the local blacksmith a couple days a week.
Excellent.
Who's that?
This young man.
Yeah.
Can you tell them what you're working on right now?
Nothing, because he's on vacation.
Well, when he gets back, you're making your own tools, right? Making your own blacksmithing tools.
I think that's neat. I think that's great. I think.
It's really cool. And we've looked into blacksmithing. It is a really lucrative career if you do like architectural stuff or, historical restoration, things like that. So, yeah.
Anybody do any work with sugaring, maple sugaring?
We have our own sugaring thing at our tech center. So we tap trees ourselves and then we sugar.
Would be a good resource.
I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah. You're all welcome to come visit sometime if you'd like. Yeah, we have a sugar shack. It's really nice. I'm very excited to start that
You
up.
already started collecting
No,
taps out yet?
not yet.
Father this weekend.
Yeah.
How many taps?
I'm not sure how many we're gonna do this year. Sometimes we buy some of it from a local, just because we make a lot, and then we sell it to benefit our program. So we'll probably go over to the elementary school and tap and teach the elementary students how to do that. And do some boiling over the fire too. Yeah.
It's funny when we think about farming too, mostly it's traditional like dairy farming here, but they're like your landscaping. I mean, on our farm, we transitioned from a sheep farm really to a wedding venue on the farm. So there are all these other things called accessory on farm businesses that can be connected to farming, but can actually make a lot more money than sheep farming.
Or dairy farming.
Right, yeah, exactly, yeah.
We have visited, if you've heard of Fable Farm, they're in Barnard. I worked there in the summer, so we were able to go and see that they make hard cider, and then they also have vinegar, and they have like a million things going on. Airbnb, they have a concert series like what you're talking about. They have weddings. So just kind of seeing how you could diversify. And they have a shared kitchen, commercial kitchen space with the local dairy, and then also a beef cattle farm. So they're able to share resources.
Former vice chair, Milk for Kiss the Cat.
Oh, no, wow. Yep, we were supposed to go there, but we couldn't that day. So we're going to go this spring. Yeah, they're good friends of mine.
Oh. It's all great stuff.
Can you just talk a little bit about whether you all spend the entire day at the tech center, or do you start in your home school? And I don't know if that's Randolph for everybody or different towns. How's that work?
We start at the tech center and we do some program academic work, and we're outside a lot. We do a lot of outside work, but I think we only go to school for like 5 hours a day. And then, yeah, so we're at the tech center all day, but we do a lot of field trips and we go out and do a lot of different things.
Okay.
So you get your other curricula at the tech center?
Yeah.
Your English and your math and
Yes, we offer an English and math and a history.
It's true for everybody in the school, at the tech center. That's good.
Yeah, some tech centers are half days and then they go back to their sending school for academics, but we're lucky that we have in-house academic teachers.
I like that model. I really like that model. At North Country, we work with Lake Region, and the kids from Lake Region have to get on the bus, ride up 20 minutes to the high school and attend the tech center for 2 2.5 hours, I think, and then right back. And of course, at North Country, they just walk down the hall, but in some instances, I like your model really, really well.
Yeah, it's nice that we're all together all day. And so like the juniors and seniors will leave at different times. So then we have opportunity to do more specialized work on individualized projects, which is really great. Yeah, I think I like our model better too. I think it's a little trickier to, have to go back to your sending school. So folks are from several different areas. If you guys maybe want to say where you're coming from to Randolph. Originally, right.
Places, so. We use most of these schools, so, yeah.
You live in Brookfield. Yeah,
I was like 3 minutes away.
from here.
Yeah.
From there, and you go to Randolph, excellent.
Yeah, so I'm enrolled at U too. But. I gotta have that.
You
Yeah,
could
he-
just Spalding CT if you wanted to.
Yeah, I could have, but it's just way hard to get in there than at Randolph.
You get it,
Like,
it
you
is
get-
there.
Yeah, school.
Yeah, there's a waiting list and
Yeah.
You have to get there on your own steam, or is there a bus?
There's a bus where you can ride in, I just like riding with friends.
Yeah.
I'm from South Burlington, so I would go to White River Valley. But going from White River Valley to
Yeah, I'm from Randolph also.
I'm also from Randolph.
I'm also from Randolph.
Braintree.
Braintree.
There's a distinction, Harley.
Yeah.
Do any of you know Sam Lincoln?
You?
Forster, did have a dairy farm for a number of years. Forster and,
He's actually a logging contract,
got a logging contract. Yeah, you're right. Thank you.
but.
We have a farm too.
Guys here is a very engaged and articulate.
He'd be a great guy to have come in. to the
That's great.
class, Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Maybe to go out and visit with them too.
Yeah, he was also
Deputy
the
Commissioner.
commissioner of Forest and Parks.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Right.
It might be good for this unit, but yeah.
He's from Randolph Center, which is,
Randolph.
yeah.
So do you work on either placement of your students, whether it's summer or even, weekends? Because I'm just thinking like there's Brook or Silverways or Spriggs. I mean, there are a lot of farms around you. So how important is it to make those relationships?
Yeah, great question. We have a work-based learning coordinator at our school, which is so great to have that person, Brent Real. And he does connect them with internships or shadow days or jobs in the community, which is really, really helpful. So, and I also just personally send them stuff like, hey, this flower farm's hiring, like knowing where their hometowns are. So trying to make those connections and maybe even go on a field trip if I know they're interested in like that sort of making that connection with folks. That's the good thing about having them all day long. We can do things like this, like come to Montpelier all day, and it's totally doable and they're not missing any academic time.
Don't let academics get in the way of their education.
I mean, most of us only have academics 2 times a week, so we have like 3 or 4 days in between where we can do field trips and fun stuff like that, so.
Although we do integrate, academics into the program,
Yeah.
right? We do a lot of writing and reading
Very fascinating.
and.
And agriculture is all about science. 100%.
You were asking just about bills and legislative process, and were you in the downstairs committee?
I think it was so jam packed in there.
Not really.
Yeah.
Yeah, so important. So I'll just say a few words about like how the things work, and
Great.
don't need to go into too much detail, but you can see all those pieces of paper on the wall. Each of those is a bill, and there's 14 committees in the House, and the Senate has maybe well over roughly the same number of committees too, and pretty much all the work that we do here in the legislature happens in a committee room. And when a bill, if one of us introduces a bill, it gets sent to a committee somewhere, and if the topic has something to do with agriculture, forestry, or food, it often will end up here. And then we'll take testimony, we'll invite experts to come in and people who are interested in seeing the bill pass. We'll have a debate, and then we'll have a vote. We then go in the afternoons, and today it'll be at 3:00. All the committees converge and we go into the big House chamber. And if there's a bill that a committee has voted on, then we'll have to have a debate about it on the House floor. But typically, since we've done a lot of work and talked to the experts, typically the rest of the House will, unless they happen to have a very strong opinion, they'll defer to the committee. And the things that we do here are, it's not that people don't have a strong opinion, but we often get a consensus that we think it's important, and the rest of the House will often feel that way too.
It's important to add, though, that we not only hear from the people who support a bill, but those who are concerned about it and want to see it say something different. So we're very careful about making sure we hear both sides.
Yeah, that's a good point. And oftentimes the bill that comes in and is represented by one of those pieces of paper is not the same bill that goes out. And you can make changes to it. Have you been following any particular legislation in this committee or?
A little bit. We talked about something just passed or maybe you're debating eliminating a fee for dairy farmers that in order to operate or something like that, or maybe Phil
That
Scott.
was in the budget yesterday?
Yes, curious about that.
Well, I'm curious
Oh,
about
it hasn't
it. We
come
haven't,
yet.
we
Okay.
haven't gotten it formally.
Yeah, I just found that intriguing because obviously a lot of us are interested in dairy.
That was a recommendation
Oh,
by the government,
Know what you're talking about.
but it hasn't come.
so how would it come to light then if he brings it up? But then
So it would probably be written into the budget bill or the budget recommendation. And it's not a bill until we make it a bill. But it starts out with the governor recommending a budget. That's in the Constitution, actually. The governor has to recommend a budget to the House.
We may not even see that. Wouldn't that go to Ways and Means and?
Yeah, we'd probably be asked about it.
Yeah.
So, but not just us, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's a fee, there's another committee that deals with revenue, and they would also be involved with it.
then there was something about a farm security farm that I know NOFA was sort of pushing forward to help. Oh,
Up there.
which one is it?
That's 60
John, you want to read that title for the group?
Establishing a
Yes.
farm security special fund, to provide grants for farm losses due to weather.
We did have questions about that, like obviously the drought and then the flooding the previous year. We learned a lot about drought mitigation on farms. And then some of our cohort, their wells ran dry on their dairy farms and that was really catastrophic. So I'm very curious about that one.
And when it left here, it had a forestry component added to it.
Oh, that's great.
Agriculture and forestry
Okay.
operation.
That's great.
Yeah, we,
Always had to.
if you've been in here, I don't know when it was, last Thursday, maybe we voted that bill out and sent it to the House as a whole, and then we passed it on Friday. So now it goes to the Senate. And just to back up a little bit, you can see it's S60, which indicates it was a Senate bill in the first place. We changed it, as Representative Lipsky just said, to add forestry and made a few other changes. So since it's a different bill now, they have to pass it again.
And Chair Durfee, I might add that this doesn't happen regularly. But this passed out of our body, the House chamber unanimously in all readings of it. If I recall.
Yeah, nobody objected. It has strong support, I think.
So that gives you an idea that no matter whether you're from Brattleboro or Highgate or Burlington or Rutland, there's a lot of value put to the agricultural community in the State House.
Downside of this is that policy, it sounds great. We passed it, good support in the chamber. But that doesn't mean there's any money. And so there's the appropriations committee that now, assuming it all passes, money's got to be appropriated or it can't happen.
That's a really good
This is
fact
real
reality.
This is a, right now, financial realities, it's tough to find money for anything.
But the great thing about it passing, if they put just a little bit of money in it, so it's active, if we have another widespread flood, there was money placed into it and it came out through the EGAT. But perhaps it could go right into S60 so we can get out quicker to our agricultural partners, because if you lose your vegetable crop right in the height of the selling season, you're in a bind. The dairy side of that equation, we have to wait for the federal government to get involved. Because the losses are so much greater, I don't ever foresee the state being able to fund it near enough. But to take care of other instances of agriculture or forestry. And, you know, it depends how much money we can find, but we gotta be responsible for our taxpayers.
Do you all know your representatives or?
Oh, yes,
Jay,
yes,
Larry,
yes.
actually some others, because you guys aren't all from Ringgold. So yours is Mark Mulholland, maybe, Plainfield?
Yeah, we should look that up. That's a good idea and have
Yeah, and
everyone
you could go find them and meet them.
today.
Yeah.
Let's go, everybody.
And also,
That
all
would be
our meetings are recorded. We call that the owl. And, you know, if you want to go back, you go back how far back and watch committee debate and witnesses testifying on bills. And you can go to the website and see what bills were taken up, and our schedule is printed every week. So you could come in and you could sit in Randolph, actually do a civics class on your Vermont House Agriculture, Food Resiliency and Forestry Committee. And then see if you can catch certain people having a moment on a hot mic.
We're about to head over to the Vermont Agency of Agriculture for lunch to chat with them, which I think will be great, especially considering some of them were saying how they want to get their existing farm up and running again. So just hopefully finding out about, you know, opportunities for new farmers or continuing farmers and how to fund that. I think it's really neat. So yeah, we do need to head out here shortly, and just thank you so much for your time. And if there's any other questions in closing.
No, that, I was just gonna say, you know, these committees, almost all the committees have sort of a sister brother agency that they're connected to. So in this case, right, our connection is to the Agency of Agriculture, or a smaller group, the Forest Parks and Rec is our sort of logging and forest side of things, but that's our jurisdiction. Like those two, you know, they do this sort of day-to-day business of agriculture and forestry in Vermont, and we're here just to help them usually make the laws that make people who are in those economies lives easier.
And the ag agency is they're very focused on helping farmers and potential farmers. So
And please pass warmest regards on to anyone from the agency.
Who are you meeting with?
Trevor Lowell.
Okay, yeah.
So the agency is obviously the executive branch. Everyone know the three branches of state government?
We reviewed all of that. Yep.
Good job. So we make the laws and they make it happen.
then after your lunch, what are your plans?
Then we head back to school. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we're kind of done a little earlier than other schools, like 2:20, just because they have to get the bus back and.
Great.
Well, you know how to get over to.
Like, does he- Across the way.
Straight.
Oh, wait, I'm making the wrong, actually, yeah.
This is north, you're gonna go out the side door and go south. And it's-
Great.
Yeah, you've got the monolith of the, directly across from the entrance. But this is looking at that, the MB building. It's on the left and it's brick and
It's an old brick building, very interesting.
It's a classic piece of architecture. It's beautiful.
Oh, yeah, I'm excited to go in.
Beautiful.
Thank you all for.
Thank you so
coming in.
much.
Thanks for coming up to the
Thank
demo.
you.
Yeah.
Real treat for
We're gonna
us.
take our break now. For lunch.
Return the bill.